Alive. This is the market update. This is the World at War market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. March 2nd, 2026. Everyone's sitting around trying to figure out what this means for Bitcoin, and boom, all of a sudden, Bitcoin goes up 6%, silver crashes, and the U.S. bond market is falling apart, and interest rates are rising. Meanwhile, everyone's looking at the stock market, which is probably the wrong metric for this scenario. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why Bitcoin is now better than precious metals. I know. Can you believe I'm saying that? Crazy. Hear me out. Back when Bitcoin was like 90, 100K, everybody thought Bitcoin was going to go up. Well, it didn't. Very simply, it didn't. Now, when silver was trading at 60, everyone was like, yeah, silver can go up a little, but meh. And of course, what did silver do? It went to 120. So nobody expected to rally in silver, and everybody wanted to rally in Bitcoin. And of course, what did you get? Exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Flip it around to the big uncertain geopolitical situation. It happens. It's not going to go anywhere. We'll talk about that. Everyone expects silver to go back to 120. It doesn't. So everyone sells. And then turns around and discovers that people are caught short Bitcoin. So everybody was the bulls. They were out, bearish, and short. And believe it or not, they had a reason to stay away. They had the full moon. They had the eclipse. Everybody was like, don't touch this thing into March. Now, it's going to be extremely volatile, and we'll talk about some levels. But let's consider a few things right off the bat about changing governments. Let's start with something safe. Let's try the state of Texas, okay? The current administration is having us believe a line where if, the governor of Texas was removed, that you would somehow have the ability to subjugate or control the state of Texas. Okay, well, I'm here to tell you that that's not true. The state of Texas is more than the governor. Now, overseas, we've taken out a supreme religious leader who, in the minds of those people, is like, one notch down from their version of the Almighty. And we're being told that even though, the current administration is making a list and checking it twice in terms of people they don't want to be around anymore, I don't know that this necessarily goes away in a day. In other words, ran a little Gann probability scenario and the type of things that we give to our Patreon, platinum and VIP members. And we're going to have a big YouTube show tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, where Toby's going to take the stage to talk about, all that's happening here. There's only a 35% chance that this just kind of, goes away. Meaning you get this like short-term short squeeze in Bitcoin to like 80-something K, and then that's it. I don't think so. We have more stuff, as in the United States of America, we have more military equipment and air power than we had when we invaded a country in 2003. You don't just send all that over there and use it for a day and that's it. This is, as they say in the world of security, ongoing. It's ongoing. It does not go away. You know why? You know how you know? Well, the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, they got a new all-time high over there. How nice for them. A new all-time high. Why? because, whatever we're doing over there, we're just going to keep right on doing it. We're just going to keep right on doing it. And that costs money, which is why the U.S. bond market doesn't like this at all. In my day, if you had a threat to close the Strait of Hormuz, you were going to shut down all these refineries because of drone strikes. You would have the equivalent in the Treasury bond market of a 25 basis point Fed cut immediately. Probably with stocks limit down. That's a guess. Something like that. Okay, well, not so in this case. In this case, stocks went down. I can't believe this is good for stocks, right? Stocks have been going up as Bitcoin has been going down, and it seems obvious that this, along with AI, is just something the stock market cannot handle. So not only do they not know, and there's a point here for Bitcoin, not only do they not know what anything is worth because of AI, right? Like, for example, Block, Square laid off half their employees. Just everything was fine, and half the company just went away overnight. They got 6 months pay on the way out the door, but best of luck to you. You're talking about convulsive change in the corporate reality, in the corporate world. That is a reality. That is not a coming soon event. And then you don't know if you're going to wake up one day and oil's going to be at 100. You don't know. I mean, again, would the state of Texas just roll over in one day? Now, there is military news out there that says that, whatever happened in the first 24 hours was so dramatic that, the country over there that's being attacked is effectively a sitting duck. We'll see, right? Sometimes a cornered animal can be dangerous. This is not a geopolitical show. However, George Friedman from Austin, Texas did note, you don't change a government like you change your socks. That's not what he said, but that's the point. You don't just swap it out. Not in this case. So this is ongoing. Now, if we have to finance options overseas, here's a theory. There's nothing the American deep state is what they say. There's nothing the deep state loves more than endless conflict. It's unbelievable. And if you wanted to kiss and make up with Jerome Powell, a card-carrying agent of the deep state, you would start another forever war, and in exchange, you would get high-powered money. You would get, effectively, the Fed pushing the button, pushing money into the market, stopping the stock market from going down, and then creating this, magical auto bid to crypto. Because this isn't going anywhere. Because Arthur Hayes has an essay out that's going, the second people realize that this is going to require extensive Fed accommodation, as every U.S. conflict has. I mean, 9/11 was a classic case. I mean, that was during a stock bear market or an internet bubble burst, right? But liquidity inevitably follows, which again is why, with gold and silver, the fear hasn't ended, but the fear trade ended and the liquidity trade may have started. May have. Now, of course, as we always say, beware the failed rally. There is a big chart point at 70, right? It's just, we've been looking at the same Gann line, right, for months. It's right there at 70. Beware the failed rally. Okay, it's this moving average, right? This is our second adventure above this moving average. I got to be honest. Kind of looks impressive to me right now. I mean, I know it's easy to say it's impressive, up 5%, but I think if you had said to somebody, this is the top of the trading range, so of course traders will be selling here, but they definitely blew through some stops right here at 68. Right here at 68. And what's really amazing, and I'm sure no one is talking about this stuff, but in things like Solana, in Solana and XRP, you have 13 bottoms. You have a DeMark 13 bottom in XRP here. And you also have it in Solana. So if you were able to put a rally in Solana together to like 100 or 105, you could have a chart turn. I mean, I don't know if it's an epic chart turn, but it's certainly better than what this was 3 days ago. 3 days ago, it's just like nothing to talk about. This was dead. Right now, it's all of a sudden like, wait a minute. Are we on the verge of a whole other level of fiscal irresponsibility? I mean, geopolitically, it also seems insane to me. But financially, it seems even worse. Because I don't know how the stock market handles the threat of $100 oil. And I know that they're fantasizing about this being over in 24 hours. I think Bitcoin is telling you it's not going to be over in 24 hours. That this is going to require ongoing operations. Because you don't just change out a government. Now, if that's true, let's see if we can justify what we're saying. MicroStrategy is up 6% today so far. MicroStrategy is actually outperforming Bitcoin on the upside. Move. Okay, you're like, what's Move? Move is the fear gauge for bonds and currencies. So VIX, that's the fear gauge for equities. You've seen VIX. VIX goes to 25, and the plunge protection team at the Fed actually knows how to short the fear index to stop stocks from going down. It's a real thing. Move measures bond market volatility. Move is up 15% today. 15%. Okay, now I don't know if commodities or oil are in there. Oil is obviously higher. Bitcoin is up. Stocks were down. The dollar is up. Bitcoin is up anyway. All right, now not to get too stupid, there's always the possibility of a short squeeze. And of course, you don't want to see a failed rally into a big Gann line or into a big chart point that, you don't want to see that. However, I think you have a whole bunch of people who don't want to pay 70. I don't think anybody wanted to pay 70 for silver on the way up. I think once it got above 80, people started figuring it was going to 100. But there was a point where people were like, okay, that's enough in silver. And silver essentially went to the demand destruction point, which was something like 125. And I think if you looked at Bitcoin, and again, it came out of our model today, I'm just giving you kind of the highlights. We'll give the specifics to our members. But I mean, you think about where everybody is long the Bitcoin ETF. Everybody was long the Bitcoin ETF between 85 and 90. That was the bottom of the range. So if you look at Bitcoin and you look at where most people bought the Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin was around 85 to 90K. That's according to Jim Bianco. So what would happen if they just vertical squeezed Bitcoin? I mean, Bitcoin has been going down relentlessly since October. Like shorts took heat like when it went to 97K. Shorts took heat for like 3 days. You have been able to just be short Bitcoin with absolute total impunity, right? What would happen if they squeezed them out to the 200-day moving average, which is roughly 90? How insane would that be? Because we have to print money now. All right. Now, of course, the flip side is that, oil's going to 100 and stonks are done. And when stonks are done, you have gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Probably get like 1 or 2 out of the 3 as a winner when stonks go down. I don't see how stonks can handle $100 oil. I think people are assuming that's not happening. Yet, like right before the show, the Eagle King sends me all this stuff like Saudi Arabia shuts down refinery. Qatar, shuts down liquid natural gas trade, right? Just Dario, my macro guy, says, Iran's going to ramp up an attack with rockets over the next 10 days. And then everybody will go back to the negotiating table when oil hits 100 in 2 weeks. Now, if oil is at 100 in 2 weeks, I mean, there's 2 scenarios, right? Either the market figures out that we're going to have to print money and cut rates to stop the massive impact because this whole thing backfired on the administration, or everything just tanks. And this is just your sell the fact, your big, sell the uptick kind of event. Now, one of the reasons why this could be a reversal is because we got a full moon and a lunar eclipse coming up, but we're right on top of it. In other words, on eclipses, you either get a trend magnification, because when this first came out, I was like, oh my God. This thing has done nothing but go down for 6 months or more. And now, Bitcoin should have gone lower. Bitcoin should have gone to 58. It should have just gotten totaled. But it didn't. And now you have a reversal. And look, if this sticks and this whole this is going to be over in a day thing is not true. In other words, if this is ongoing and it's going to have to be financed with printed money, oh my God. I mean, that does set up a crypto comeback, because we talked about this last week, and I know you blew me off. Even if you like the show, you blew me off because, and of course you would, because the market doesn't go anywhere. So what is going to happen when all these portfolio managers watch a complete business day of this and they go to their morning meeting tomorrow and they go, can we really take the risk of being in XYZ stock or XYZ sector? Yes or no? My guess is the answer is no. And then do we have to start switching because of both AI and its conflict to the Bitcoin ETF? Do we have to allocate money to Bitcoin the way they had to allocate money to gold and silver? I don't understand how the answer could not be yes. I think the only reason the answer would be no is if the trading community manages to do like a monstrous failed rally because, again, stonks crater and Bitcoin just follows. That's possible. I mean, stonks did recover today. It did. And, the Iranian regime, I don't know how many times I can say that on the air, but, they say they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz, but, most of the stuff that I'm seeing on Twitter from like reputable sources would indicate that, these guys have just can't defend themselves anymore. I mean, they can defend themselves. They can prevent themselves from being conquered, but we're going to operate in their airspace with impunity, looking for any, materials that go boom. Now, there's another idea. Notice how the Chinese and Russians have said nothing. No condemnation, no United Nations, no nothing. There is also the possibility that this is theater. In other words, it looks like the end of the world. It looks like something that's ongoing, but maybe it's theater. In other words, they take out some guys. It's kind of all prearranged in a way. The Russians and Chinese are in on it. They know exactly what's going to happen. And it actually is a piece of theater, which has everyone wondering, now that the buildup has happened, why everyone was so bearish on something like Bitcoin. Like, any way you slice this, nothing burger or ongoing operation, why can't Bitcoin, or why shouldn't Bitcoin catch up to stonks, gold, and silver? You look at this tape today and answer me that. Now, the answer is it's a bear market. You've been paid to sell every uptick. You got paid to sell at 97. You got paid to sell at 90. You got paid to sell at 87. I get it. I understand that, but it makes for very, very, very boring television. What makes for exciting television is the idea of a multi-day short squeeze. Because I don't know that, something that happens on a weekend is automatically over on a Monday. And even if it was, you would know it was a piece of theater. Like, something like this is over in a day, it's prearranged. But like George Friedman said, you don't change a government in a day. You don't do regime change in a day. You have to sit on these guys, which is why, they got a new high in that one particular Middle Eastern stock market. Because we are going to have to sit on these guys, and we're going to have to commit capital, and we're going to have to commit people. And, Country Club Hillbilly notes that it's the perfect storm. It's the perfect storm for stonks. And wouldn't it be funny if everybody just got caught? The way I would say it is, people would get caught underinvested in Bitcoin. In other words, when we talk about Bitcoin, we're always, thinking about levered longs and levered shorts. I mean, the shorts have had the advantage in our little player versus player world for so long, right? It's hard to remember the last time the shorts did not have a tactical advantage. They have every advantage. They have the advantage of probably until you blow through like a level we gave Patreon, which is like 73, right? Until you just like blow through those levels. Now, we're not there yet. You got a nice 7% rally, just like you did the other day, but then it turned around and failed. The only reason this wouldn't fail is because the U.S. bond market continues to deteriorate. In other words, is Bitcoin an actual safe haven? It's not as Bitcoin digital gold. Is Bitcoin a scarce form of code that acts as an asset when things get weird? Especially since it's beat up and everyone has dumped it. I have absolutely no doubt that the legacy community is underinvested. And as we discussed last week, all the people that like it, remember, all the people that like it have gone into the derivatives market and basically hedged. So if Bitcoin starts to go up, they're not making the amount of money that they should be making. It just, to me, when you see this spike like this, it feels like the Fed. And if it's not the Fed, then it's a failed rally, and then you really got problems. That's the flip side of the equation, right? In other words, if you have a 13 bottom in XRP and you have a 13 bottom in Solana, what's funny is the market is trying to, it's bottoming from the bottom up. Like, honestly, be honest. Who is talking about Solana and XRP these days? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Interesting that XRP has an ETF. Interesting. No one is talking about these particular digital assets. No one. Stable coins, Clarity Act is not a word. Obviously, the geopolitical thing takes center stage. Elon is reporting today was like the busiest day on Twitter. And I don't know that you need to be on Twitter. If the U.S. bond market, like U.S. long bond futures, ZB, are down 1% today. That's huge. That's a huge move in the wrong direction. In the wrong direction. Everybody's like, wow, isn't this the end of the world? Shouldn't we buy something safe? Guess what, homie? Long bonds are not safe. Look at the reversal on this. You know, you gap it up. It's like, oh, yeah, stocks are down. Buy bonds. Boom. Somebody unloaded. Most likely the Japanese. Like, oh, a bond rally. Look. Whoop. See ya. There's a lot of people who need to get out. There's a lot of people who aren't going to sit around and watch to see if this costs us $1 trillion or whatever. Or whatever these things cost. And I also think, you know, to be honest, when it comes to Bitcoin, you know, I know we got service members in harm's way, but don't we kind of have to ask, you know, is this current administration, are they acting in the interest of the American people? Like, who exactly is all this for again? Like, this is sovereigns in charge. And then you can take that with two facts from the grocery store. Did you know, if you want to talk about foreign exchange, that $1 US does not get you a hot pocket? A hot pocket is $1.37. Now, somebody overseas is going to be like, what's a hot pocket? A hot pocket is basically a self-contained little breaded item that has pizza-like materials on the inside. The particular brand Hot Pocket is popular with college kids and people at lower income ranges or anybody that needs to go to the bathroom because essentially it's a pizza-flavored laxative. However, it costs $1.37 in Texas. So $1 US gets you 3/4 of a Hot Pocket. That's the currency we're talking about. So we can't get a Hot Pocket for $1. And who exactly is running the country again? I mean, these are questions that, you know, you normally don't ask, particularly when, you know, some level of patriotism and support of the people who are in harm's way is in order. However, if you're a crypto show, you have to ask yourself, are these governments acting in our interest or not? And if this sticks, right? A 70's big resistance. But if it sticks, will legacy investors reveal themselves as underinvested in Bitcoin? Or will people realize, oh my God, I got to get out of treasuries? Like, this could be the oh my God moment in treasuries. Like, everybody was thinking that, you know, the fact that the US government has to like roll over a bunch of debt is like the big problem. And this is like the discussion point on crypto social media because no one has anything to talk about. I've brought this up, but the reality is I think the government has got that handled by using short-term treasury bills, but they have not handled a budget blowout financing a mammoth operation in the Middle East on an ongoing basis. The last time they wanted to press a button and leave, and they did. That's great, I guess. But it clearly didn't work, and they're back again. So if there's a realization that, hey, I got to get out of U.S. bonds, what happens? Like, everyone's like, you know, all the profits from gold and silver are going to wind up in Bitcoin. That's not true. That's not true at all. But some of this capital that comes out of treasuries, I mean, where are they going with that? They can go to domestic Japanese bonds. They can go to domestic stocks. You know, they can buy whatever's on the Tel Aviv exchange, or they can look at any top performing assets. They can look at Bitcoin and, dare I say it, above 2000, things like ETH. Because, you know, there is a really important point about Bitcoin, at least from a LuxAlgo point of view. And I'm sure it's very true in ETH, but it's actually more true in Bitcoin, in spot Bitcoin. That you look at the LuxAlgo on this. I don't know if my face hides it. Okay, there it is. So this is the current price action. And this red on red is everyone giving up in Bitcoin. I mean, that is a really chunky give up trade in spot Bitcoin. I don't know what IBIT looks like. Let's find out. I mean, they packed it up and left. I mean, even IBIT is not as bad as spot Bitcoin. Absolute, total give up trade. Total. And honestly, Bitcoin should be lower on this news. It should be. Right? I mean, you know, historically, if oil goes to the moon, now I have seen stuff saying, you know, Bitcoin is a store of energy, so rising energy prices can help Bitcoin. I don't think I believe that. I think if you have $100 oil, you're going to have some pretty serious consternation. But if you don't have $100 oil and you just have the realization that the uncertainty about this happening is over, but the liquidity tidal wave to finance it is coming now. Like a lot of things Arthur Hayes has been talking about, like AI is going to eventually create a job problem, right? And then Circle comes out right after that, or Block, and does a huge layoff. No, as Arthur Hayes writes, AI will create a financial crisis after the Anthropic news with IBM, right? The whole software disruptor thing. And then lo and behold, you have a tech company letting half of its people go in one day. Just 2 weeks later. You know, Arthur Hayes is thinking this is like a future thing. He's also thinking this Iranian thing, or any idea of a protracted issue, brings in the Fed later. Now, that's kind of in line with what we're saying. You can expect heavy volatility in March. This is not the end of Bitcoin or crypto volatility in both directions. Okay. Simon gives us a $5 super chat, says, where's the sugar pump? They need to turn it on already. Well, I mean, dude, the sugar pump is on, I think. I mean, short-term government bonds got sold. Like, people just said there's no safety in the 2 and 5 year note. There's no safety in short-term U.S. government bonds. I mean, dude, if that's the case, they have to turn on the printer. They have to. I mean, you know, like militarily, this one country in the Middle East is obviously on the worst end of the deal. But this 2-year note and 5-year note reaction in the United States is embarrassing. This is embarrassing that, you know, you can have this like big threat and everybody just goes, you know what? We're selling bonds with no reversal in stocks, with no change in the situation. Like nothing has really changed versus last night, as far as I know. Okay. You know, Orange Man says we will easily prevail, vows whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Dude. It's like Simon says, What you said about Bitcoin, about AI can't create more Bitcoin. That's Jordy Visser, actually. I used to work with him. Actually, the author of the original market update. We used to read in a Bloomberg terminal, believe it or not. Yeah, AI cannot create more Bitcoin. AI cannot replicate the Bitcoin network. It could replicate a bunch of code, but it doesn't automatically push button make a new Bitcoin network like it can make a copy of TikTok. You can't do it. It's over for software. The only software that's worth anything is Bitcoin. And of course, you've heard all this and people are just like, shut up. Shut up. And I understand. I understand. And there's also this whole sell America trade, like sell our equities, sell our bonds. You know, you've heard about this is a very popular thing in legacy. One thing I've been saying forever is the way the system vents the pressure of the debt and the irresponsibility and the sovereign behavior is with a move to the upside. Now, of course, the indignity of watching it happen in gold and silver. But if the market is making a transition from fear to liquidity, like if this yeah, okay. But if % with silver going down and bonds going down, it's like, wait a minute. Maybe they're doing a different trade. Maybe this really is the eclipse inflection point. It's the eclipse. Eclipse can mark changes in trends. They can magnify the trends and then they reverse them. And I was like, well, guess we're not getting a reversal. I thought it was a reversal 2 or 3 days ago. I mean, even if it's just a squeeze. I mean, is it so ridiculous to think? Is it so ridiculous to think? Okay, so here's I don't know if you'll be able to see this. No. Okay. So we'll show you, and this is an example of a slide that our Patreon group, or a slide that we'll do tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the YouTube member area, where you absolutely can't miss what Toby Ward has to say when she told everybody already to stop being bearish Bitcoin at 60K. Stop it. You know, 65 to 70 is like an equilibrium, like kind of like, you know, you move it in if you can. A lot of people want to sell against 70. I'm kind of wondering if you should be buying the first dip, because you could have a multi-month breakout if it takes out 85. Remember, that's where all those trapped longs are. So you could attack it. That's not ridiculous. You break out of a range, you break out of an area, you return to that area to test it. It's not stupid at all. And then, of course, you know, if this thing wants to do something like go to 100. Who's talking about 100? Nobody. Who's talking about a new high in Bitcoin? Absolutely nobody. Patreon Platinum is, though. Right? In other words, you can still have a wild year in Bitcoin. You can still have, everyone thinks it's, oh, well, it's just got to fall apart and go to zero. It's got to be like winter, just slumps and goes to 30. And maybe that's true, because you know the levered players are going to sell it today. Right? That's what they're going to do. And just like last time, and they were right the last time, they got some gratification out of it, although they got, you know, I'm sure they didn't cover. They got squeezed again. So another super chat here is we appreciate it. Is what is my personal opinion on the eclipse? Dude, my personal opinion on the eclipse is very simple. At 90, Bitcoin should have gone up. It should have followed silver. It didn't. So it went straight down. This time, this news comes out. Oil goes up. That's bad for Bitcoin. Bitcoin did not go down. Bitcoin looked worse 3 days ago. It's fine. Absolutely fine. My personal opinion, if it's supposed to go down and it doesn't, it has a shot. It has a shot at 85. And if I'm wrong, okay, it's a failed rally and bear market continues back to sleep. But I think the pain in Bitcoin is up because fiscal irresponsibility is here. Arthur Hayes wrote about it. We just haven't, fully grasped it yet. Because how can you fully grasp? Like Arthur Hayes comes out with this huge report. You have this fluid geopolitical situation that no one understands. We attack these guys out of nowhere. I mean, we've had kind of an ugly relationship with them for a long time. And now we just decide to go full nutso on them out of nowhere. The orange man has a list. He's just crossing people off the list. You got to admit, if the guy says he's doing it, he's doing it. I've said that all along. I wish we could have that with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. However, if I can't have the strategic Bitcoin reserve, I'll take bad behavior as a substitute. I'll take bad behavior as a substitute because you know what? The Fed has to come in on this. They've had to come in and finance every big conflict, war, budget busting thing that we've ever done on the geopolitical front. Again, 2001 and 9/11 come to mind. This is not 9/11 on our soil, knock on wood. Okay, but it's obviously very dramatic if you're over there. I mean, I remember the people from Venezuela in line to buy food even after Maduro was removed. You got 25% of our Navy off the shore, and we just voted the leader out of office and took him to a detention facility. Would you be stocking up on food and water if like some giant military was like out in your harbor taking your leader out, even if you didn't like him? Okay. So I think you get the idea that financial irresponsibility is here. The threat of AI is now coupled with the threat of $100 oil. Because you don't know. I mean, how many drones, the Ukrainians have proved this. How many drones does it take to attack an oil facility? They've been doing this to the Russians for months now. For months. Do you think, the entire Iranian military, even if they're sitting ducks, are just going to sit there and they're not going to do anything? Why do you think the orange man is saying whatever it takes? He's also said something to the effect of, there are going to be more U.S. casualties. Everybody in America thinks that, conflict is like a video game. It happens. It's on Twitter. You see, you see a boat in the Caribbean blow up on video, and that's it. And you go back to Instagram. Bitcoin is kind of telling you that may not be the case. Or, again, the government irresponsibility thing, which can continue regardless of what happens with this conflict. Because, again, why has Bitcoin not followed gold and silver? There's a reason for that. What reason is that again? Refresh my memory. I'm old. What reason is there for that? Okay. Okay. Tariffs got shot down. We're at war. You're the helicopter signed the XRP army. Altcoins as an asset class. Stocks got problems. The oil market's got problems. That was all over the legacy press. Can the oil market handle the stress? I still ask you, what are you going to invest in? Like, what are you going to invest in? This is good. This is a real conversation now. This isn't just like, oh yeah, Bill's on YouTube with the loyal 1,000 people. God bless you all. Listening in this abyss. Now, this is a real question in legacy. What are we going to invest in? We could blow off this AI trade. In other words, everyone who has assets, right, who won't be disrupted by AI, which is ridiculous. But let's buy the companies that won't be affected by AI. Whatever. Okay. Are any of those companies affected by the price of oil? What do you think? I don't know. Just Dario thinks oil's at 100 in 2 weeks. I mean, if oil could go to 100 in 2 weeks for stonks people who were on edge already, remember, volatility, insurance against a price decline in single stocks in equities was crazy before this started. And now I ask you, do these people not come to Bitcoin? Especially if the Fed has to start pushing liquidity now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the quick thought-provoking market update. Final super chat. If you can't touch anything you can touch right now, you'll get burned. Lord have mercy. All right, sir, we appreciate the super chats. Also, a reminder about risk management, right? In other words, if you have stuff that you don't believe in anymore, you just got yourself a juicy rally to rotate out. However, I think it's time to give the crypto market the benefit of the doubt and see if it can actually hold. I know shorts are going to attack. Nothing I say is going to stop that. The day they get squeezed out is the day it goes to 85. And of course, if it's a failed rally, well, then we'll tune in with a new update. So if you want to know what's going on with crypto, macro, geopolitics, altcoins, and don't forget the YouTube member area where a professional seer will let you know. I knew that something like this was going to happen because she called me up and says, we got to get on the air. And I was like, I watch this thing just slowly start turning around because she said it. She said it should have gone down, but it didn't. Matter of fact, it's been that way all week, all month, right? This should have just broken in a million pieces, and it could. Other bear markets were like this where Bitcoin would just sit still and it's bearish. Okay, I got it. That could still be true. There was an uptick to 97K before it fell apart. There was an uptick to 87K before it fell apart. You have to acknowledge the environment that we're in. You also have to acknowledge that there's an eclipse, and eclipses create reversals. That's the market update for today. We will see you soon.